So this is all your setup here.
Yeah, it's real simple.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I don't need
I like it.
all that fancy shit.
No. No, I mean, we've got a setup, but I bought like an elaborate setup and then never did anything with it. So.
What do you mean? Like you had a pop mic?
I have a whole podcast setup, like the mics. I have a pod track, which is just like a bigger version. Well, it's just a different version of that.
Right. I set this one up in such a way where if I need to be mobile, like if I need to go to someone's place, then I'm good.
Yeah, see, that's it. When we got it, it was just like it was bigger than what it looked like in the picture.
Yeah.
And now I want a pocket recorder. I want a smaller version of that for recording sets and stuff.
That's a good move. I'll give you the info on what I have for this, and it wasn't too expensive. But you were saying you went to the Comedy Shrine?
I went to the Comedy Shrine, and I've done riddles. So I've done like the other clubs here. You know, they're just a different vibe, and you don't see too many people from the city go to those things, but you see a lot of people from like the suburbs come down to the city to go to mics. I thought that was a little different.
Do you think it's worth, like for me without a car, is it worth going out to the suburbs?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't. Unless what you're in game. Is your in game to get booked or just to get in front of a different audience?
Oh, that's a good question.
And so it's like, just my advice is if your end game is to get booked and you're there and you know that you can host and you know that you can feature, like you already got that down, I would go to at least the Shrine, do your time, meet up with the booker, give them your info, give them a card or a bio if you have it. That's what I did. I went up there and had a pretty good set, and I told the guy I was new. And he thought I meant brand new to comedy.
Oh, okay.
So at the beginning of the night, he's like, "We got a guy in here. It's his first time ever doing comedy." And I'm like looking at my wife, and I'm like, "I think that dude thinks it's me." And so then I get there early, and now I'm there where I should have been probably middle of the pack. I'm now dead last. I'm 33, and now we're at 1. I go down to look at the list. I've moved down, so I'm like, whatever. I stay,
patience.
I don't ever get mad about that stuff. I don't have an ego about that crap. So we just waited out, and I did pretty good, enough that they put me in front of the booker the next day.
Nice.
And so it was worth it for me. But guess what? I didn't get booked. Like, I sent the guy my tape. I sent him everything. Like, it was this moment. Oh, yeah, you need to get a hold of this guy. And I got a hold of this guy, and this guy was like, yeah, no.
What do you think, and it goes in a booker's mind when sending in information, or like, is it genuinely like, oh, I just think this person's funny? Is it marketability? What do you think?
I think it's different for everyone. I think when you've got like shows where the intent is to make as much money as possible, then they're like, all right, well, people come pay to see this person. And so, if I'm a booker, I hate to say it, I'm not booking the person that's the funniest. I'm booking the person that's got 100 friends that's going to promote the show, and I don't have to pay for that advertising. Because, when you see like people that put on really good private shows, they pay for marketing and advertising. Yeah. But if you've got someone that maybe is not super funny, but damn, they got a following on social media, or they've got these things, and I'm booking that person because that's who's going to make me the most money.
I guess then the goal would be to be not only the funniest, but the person who also has the following.
I think you got to do both, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've traveled around. When I left the military in 2017, I went and worked for the government for a little while, and then I decided that I wanted to do this as a regular job. I wanted to try to do it. I have, pension and money coming in from the military that I'm able to try to do this. And from what I've seen is every scene's different. I've spent some time in New York City, and that scene's drastically different than out here.
In what way? Because I haven't been in New York yet.
Super competitive. Like, where I was at in Detroit, I don't think like I was ready to honestly move here. Like when I said that I wanted to leave Michigan, I knew that I had to leave Michigan if I wanted to do this full time. Coming here, I don't think I was quite ready to do that. So
Chicago or New York?
Chicago.
Okay.
And it's super competitive here. I mean, think how competitive it is here to get booked, to get spots at the Laugh Factory, to get those where people want to be. It's hard to do that.
I think I don't fathom it yet. I think I'm still in the starry-eyed place because it's only been 6 months. Like it seems like you've traveled, like especially in the military, right? Like you've been around. I've traveled a little bit. I think the furthest I've ever gone is Ireland. I've been to a couple of states, but like nothing this big in my life. So I think for me, I'm recently understanding like, oh, this is a really big scene, and this is very difficult.
Yes. Yeah, I came into this thinking, you know what, man, I've had some moderate success in the very short time I've been doing comedy, and I'm like, I got this. I'm gonna come to Chicago. I'm gonna get booked. All these things are gonna happen. Then none of that happened, and then I wasn't nearly as good as I thought I was. So yeah. I come out here and I wasn't arrogant or cocky or anything like that, but when I first got to town, I'm starting to go to these mics and I'm like, wow, I'm not funny. Like these people don't like me. Yeah. But you know, I also had a false sense of security too, because I had spent time in New York. I spent time down in Austin and trying to figure out where we wanted to settle to do this full time.
What made you pick Chicago?
I think honestly because where I was at, I saw the most amount of people doing cool things. So in Austin, you can do some cool things. There's Kill Tony. There's, you know, the Rogan group, if that's what you're into. Like, there's that kind of stuff there. But it's hard to get into that.
I imagine.
I've got friends in the scene, though. Like, I've got friends that I started doing comedy with that are opening for Rogan pretty regularly, if that's someone that you subscribe to. You know, not everybody's into Joe Rogan right now.
That's such a weird thing that's happened with Joe Rogan. Like, do you know when the turn happened? Because I remember the Joe Rogan Experience wasn't perceived as such a big, was it like pre-Spotify for sure? It feels like something happened, a switch happened where it was like you are for Rogan or against Rogan now, even within the comedy community.
Yeah, it's real weird. I got some friends, you know, in the Austin community, and I've got some friends in the LA community, and they both have different opinions. You see, the LA community is like, fuck Rogan, we're glad he's gone, don't ever bring him back. Jesus. The Comedy Store is a better place now that he's gone. I'm dead serious. And then you've got some friends of mine from Detroit that have a completely different, like I have my friend Genevieve right now wouldn't be doing anything right now if it wasn't for Joe Rogan. Like she did Kill Tony, she killed it. Then she'd been doing the Secret Show down in Austin, which is a big show, and she's opened for Rogan probably 4 or 5 times. And so it's like, so I think that there's good and bad. I'm not 100% on the Rogan train, but I'm not 100% against it either.
It's a complicated.
I just don't care. I guess when it really comes down to it, like I just don't give a shit. I don't really listen to Joe Rogan that much, that affects me. I think he does some stupid shit, but a lot of white people do stupid shit.
Did you grow up around a lot of black people?
I did.
When I remember seeing you at What a Jerk. And I was like, yeah, this guy's been around a lot of black people.
But I started comedy around black people, too. Like when I started comedy, it was in the Detroit scene, and there wasn't a lot of mics going on. So, like, when I first started, it was the inner city scene, where I was, like, Paradise Lounge, the only white person, the only person with an actual name, not like a nickname.
No, yeah, the nickname thing is interesting. Yeah.
And it's weird there because in some of those rooms, those people, comics in Detroit are good, and the OG comics are really good, and they'll go do an hour before they'll let you do the open mic. So like my first like 6 months, I'd go up after this dude just murdered for an hour and be like, all right, you get Boogie's leftover scraps.
Yeah. Everyone's laughed out. Everyone's tired.
Everyone's just like, but that's just how it works there. And you know, it's just it's funny, but that's where I kind of started, and then that's where I started getting booked. Like my first bookings was at a hair salon in the ghetto of Louisville.
You didn't have the hair at that point?
I did. Oh, no, okay. I was doing the world was shut down, so I started doing this in the pandemic. So one night my wife and I had some time off, and she did, and we just got in the car and started driving around going to mics. And so we started in West Michigan and then ended up in Louisville, Kentucky. And the first person to ever book me was at a guy that runs a comedy club at a hair salon in Louisville, in the hood. And that was my first show.
How did it go?
It was a day after the Breonna Taylor verdict, too.
Fuck Christ.
Yeah. And like, I'm telling you, it went great. I think that that's probably the coolest experience I've ever had. So in the whole time I've been doing comedy, the coolest thing is doing it at a hair salon / comedy club / like bar.
Yeah. It's comedy does bring you to weird places. You were in Detroit. Did you just by happenstance, did you know anyone named KJ Robinson?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
No, not off the top of my head.
All right, doesn't matter. The military thing, especially your before and after, I gotta. What happened? So, okay, so you got into the military because you were patriotic, because you need money, college.
No, I just was like, I want to be like everybody else. So I grew up in a small town, and so I grew up in this like middle of nowhere, and I didn't want to be someone from middle of nowhere that just got a job at a factory. I wasn't like quite good enough for college right off the bat. It wasn't that I wasn't super disciplined, and so I said I'm gonna go try this out, and then I ended up staying my entire adult life. But it was never really the plan. It was just I'll go do this for a little while, and then I'm like, all right, well I like it, I don't hate it, and then I was given good opportunities to like make my own schedule and travel and things like that, and I never got out.
I can't. It's funny because I can't picture you now. In that, like, you seem like such a free spirit. I can't imagine the military meshes well with.
No, it didn't. I wasn't very good at it at all. And the military didn't like me, and I didn't like it towards the end of it. But what happened is you conform to it. It doesn't conform to you.
Right.
And so, like, in my early, younger years, it was great because I needed that kind of, like, direction. But when I started to, like, have free spirit and everything, it got a little more difficult. But I was lucky that I worked in, like, public affairs and I worked in recruiting and stuff. So, like, besides being overseas, that was, like, the most soldierly thing I did. Anything outside of that, I was dealing with the community and dealing with civilians more than I was dealing with soldiers, so it was a good fit in that regard.
So you weren't like in battle or anything?
I was overseas.
Oh, fuck.
I was overseas, yeah, but see, so I was the recruiter, and then one day I had this kid's mom go, hey, when have you gone overseas? And I hadn't been, and I was just recruiting her kid that probably was going to go overseas. And this lady was just straight up with me. She was like, hey, listen, before you start sending kids overseas, maybe you should go over once. And I volunteered.
Because of that moment?
Yeah, I did. I volunteered. And so I went back and I said, hey, I want to go overseas. And they're like, you're in recruiting duty. So I had to, like, quit. And I had to, like, leave that and then go.
That must have been a really emotional moment or something.
Not really, because it was like, you know what, this lady's right. I'm in the military. I'm selling kids on going to war, and I have never done it.
So it was just like, I can't be a pussy.
It wasn't that you can't be a pussy. It was like, I can't, like, I guess I just had a hard time when I really looked at it. I'm like, man, I'm 26 years old, and I'm sending these kids into a bad situation, and I haven't done it once. What kind of leader am I? You know, like.
So what was it like? What did you do?
It was hell. But I had thrown myself in it. So, like, I had been in recruiting for a little while. I hadn't been in the conventional military for some time. So when I went overseas, I just wasn't ready for it because I hadn't been training for that. I had been talking to kids, you know. Next thing you know, like, I did some training before going overseas, but not much. And then you're over here and, like, the shit's like, oh, shit, this is real.
When you say overseas, where are we talking?
Baghdad.
Okay.
And so I worked at a big combat support hospital in Baghdad. And so, you know, we're seeing, like, the worst of the worst. And it was just, I wasn't personally prepared to deal with that at the time because I had worked on, like, selling kids on joining the military. I'd only ever seen anything in training. So it was just a huge eye-opener. I'm glad that I did it because it made me who I am. But yeah, it was very real.
I would imagine after doing it, recruiting becomes a far more difficult to know what you're actually sending someone to go do.
I did the best work after I came home from overseas, just because I could speak from that perspective that I had done it, and I had led soldiers, and I had had those experiences. So, like, it was like it was easier to be a recruiter because I've been like, hey, I've been here. This is what it's like, you know. Versus when I hadn't been here. If somebody were to ask that question, hey, what's it like over there? And I'd be like, well, I don't know, but I got a bunch of friends that have been, you know. So,
right. I
had that experience from it too.
I hesitate to push on the experience topic because I don't know what happened. You're good?
Oh yeah.
Right.
You're trust me, man. I'm way good.
All right, cool. Because so when I went to college, I was in San Diego and I was near the military base, And I remember being at bars around Marine. There's a lot of Marines. And I remember, I'm funny, right? Let me joke a little bit. And they're like, you don't fucking joke about the shit or whatever, you know. And so I try to respect that line to some degree. But so what, like, my picture of the experience is purely from film. And film is a tricky, you know.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Can you tell me how wrong I probably am?
You're totally wrong. It is like they're most like it's just a typical day week overseas. You know, for me, 90% of the time I was playing like Guitar Hero because I had just come out, and so like, you know, I was like the house champ, and so it was not that bad. It wasn't the worst experience, and you're hanging out with your friends, so it's not like the most miserable time in the world, and so I would say that part of it, and like I think a lot of it too is sometimes the people get over glorified. You're not getting screamed at all the time.
Really?
No, it's like a job. It really is. The military, when you break it down, is just a fucking job.
Gotcha.
And it's a job with a lot of stupid rules. But guess what? If you work for the federal government, it's got a lot of fucking rules too. So
A lot of red tape.
yeah, and it was an experience. I'm glad it's over with. But I'm glad that I did it because it's put me in the position in the comedy stuff to be able to do the things that I want to do now.
Right.
In life.
So, yeah. So, okay. So you get out of the military and then you're like, fuck these push-ups. Is that what?
Pretty much. Well, they hired me. So I was like, they hired me to back. So I got out and they were like, hey, we got this job.
Wait, to back?
They hired me back.
Okay.
After I got out, they hired me back as a civilian. And so I did oversight for the military for a brief period where like I made sure like the recruiters followed the rules and they were being ethical and all that stuff. And I was like, fuck. At this point I had gone full on civilian. I'd grown my hair out. I started smoking weed, you know what I mean? And it was just like, you know what? I have no stomach for this shit. And so then I started doing hair tutorials on the internet, believe it or not. And then I found comedy. Okay. I'll give you the link. But
please.
And so, like, I have followers on the internet that are solely following me because of my hair. They're called the Curl Friends. And I'm dead serious. Like, it's crazy. And they're organized. And so I started doing comedy. During the pandemic, I couldn't get on stage. So we said, hey, let's do these funny hair tutorials. And they started getting views. Not millions, not even thousands of views, but they started getting like attention. And so like on Facebook I started getting these people follow me. They were like, we want to know. I'm like their spokesperson. I'm their leader.
You're like a cult leader for hair?
I'm a cult leader on the curly hair forum, and it's got like some 40,000 followers. So like I'll make a post and it'll get like 3,000 views.
In the comedy game, do you have a little bit of a following? Have you?
I'm getting there, yeah. A lot of that's because of my buddy though, because right now I currently feature and host a lot for the Future Comedy Tour, and so
Future Comedy
Tour, and so there's a local headliner in Michigan, and he's lived out here. His name's Mike Ball. And he travels. He's a touring comic, and he gave me a ton of opportunities to like host and feature for him. And so going around all over Michigan and Wisconsin too, I've been able to like kind of piggyback off of his following, and so that's helped a lot. But everywhere I go, I'm plugging social media.
Right.
I don't get on a stage and not give my Instagram out. Every set, it's part of every set.
That is. Oh, okay. So, wait, first off, with the Mike Ball, is this him? Mike Ball?
That's my boy, yeah.
Hey, there he goes. He's
the GOAT.
I am Mike Ball on Instagram. Interesting. I will stalk him later. So he plucked you up and was like, let's go do this shit?
Yeah, he hit me up. I hadn't been doing comedy very long. Hit me up to do some guest spots, and it went real well. And then he had me starting doing more time, like feature and host, and so I've gotten to go around and like he's got a diverse audience group, and he does like guitar improv. So like no show of his is the same, so people can go see him 10 times, and so he's got that kind of appeal.
That's a good appeal.
It is. So everywhere we go, they're like, "Yeah, this is my 7th time," and he makes a big deal about them keep coming.
Yeah.
And this dude's like cult leader good as far as like getting people to come to his shows, and so that's been a good experience.
So far in talking to so many different types of first of all, I love Chicago. I love Chicago and the scene, the uniqueness of people. I mean, I've never been to New York, and I wasn't in LA doing comedy, so I could be wrong here, but Chicago feels special to me.
It is. I mean, that's why I didn't think New York. It was just a ton of people trying to do, fit into a very small hole.
Dave Attell.
Yeah.
Everyone's Dave Attell.
Everyone's Dave Attell. Well, everybody, too, the mics are not free there in New York City, too. So a lot of mics you have to pay to play.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like sometimes $5. Or if you don't have the money, they'll put you on the list, but you're going to be down towards the bottom of that bitch. And some of these mics. So, like, the one thing about the New York hustle is different. It's an earlier hustle, too. So, like, Chicago, the mics don't start till get jumping. They've got early mics here. But there, it gets jumping around noon.
Fuck.
Yeah, you can't. The definition of the early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
You got to be, if you go visit and you want to, like, mic hop, you got to be up around 10:30 and you got to be ready, get on the move. And then the big clubs, if you want to do those and you don't have a following, you don't have, then you can do bringer shows. I've done some of those. And everybody trashes them. But, man, I had a little bit of a following from the hair stuff, right?
Right.
So I got booked on a bringer show. I plugged it for a month, and I had like 20 people show. I was only supposed to bring 3. Mm-hmm. And then I've never had to bring anybody ever again. Right. But I still have 5 or 6 people show up. So look, I've been booked at Comic Strip Live in New York City 3 times.
Yeah.
And I've only been asked to bring people once.
That's okay. So the promoting yourself thing, that's what I was saying. So in talking with all of these different comics, there's different styles and approaches everyone's going for. And the promoting yourself thing is interesting because there's sometimes where personally I will whore myself out in the right situation, and then other times I feel almost self-conscious about it. Like am I not selling out is not the right word, but am I just being a douche right now? Does that make sense?
I think there's a time and place, like I don't mess with those headliners here in Chicago. I don't fuck with them. Unless they come talk to me, I don't go talk to them. I leave them the fuck alone.
Gotcha. Yeah.
If you want to talk to me, you're going to talk to me. I'm not bugging you. I'm not going up trying to run some stupid bit by you. Like, I leave the headliners alone. Mm-hmm. And so, and I guess, like, I would say that I'm out there soliciting them for advice, but, like, showrunners, know your audience. Like, I've submitted to shows here that were similar shows where I was booked before. Mm-hmm. But I don't submit to shows that, like, some of these, A-list, headliners here in Chicago. I'm not submitting to the same shows they're getting on. I'm not that good yet. So I kind of know my audience a little bit, so I try to not make it uncomfortable.
Is there, like, a demographic that usually works for you? Type of people?
No. I mean, like, I've had a hard time getting booked here, but I haven't really tried that hard. Mm-hmm. I'm more focused on just trying to get better, and then my shows on the road, that's been my focus. So, like, really getting booked here. I've got a booking next week, which is my first time being booked since living here. Okay. And that's at the Comedy Bar on the 16th.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And that was, I went to an open mic, and dude booked me. I didn't submit or anything like that.
How long have you been in Chicago?
Full time, only really about a month and a half. I had a place here, but I was bouncing back and forth because my wife works in Michigan. Well, she doesn't anymore. She lives out here now, but she was working in Michigan, so I was kind of just slowly moving us out here because we downsized to follow the dream. So we went from, like, the house and everything like that, a whole home, down to, like, a studio apartment. And it took a little while to downsize into that.
Yeah, so. The adjusting is a bitch. I think I'm trying to, for myself, I'm trying to be patient. I've been out here for about 6 months now. I've been booked on, like, bars, and I've been in, like, a boba restaurant and shit like that, but nothing like booked specifically for, like, a comedy show at a comedy club. And I go through these waves. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where sometimes I'm like, I don't deserve it and it's fine and I'm going to keep working hard and it's okay. And then other times I'm like, man, can you guys please give me a chance to do this?
Dude, that's my everyday.
Yeah.
Like, I go through those emotions every day. I'll wake up going, I'm a piece of shit. I'm terrible. This is stupid. I'm 43 years old. Why did I do this? And then by the middle of the day, it's like, I can't wait to get on stage. And then I'll get on stage and be like, oh God, I'm the biggest piece of shit ever. Then watch the tape back and realize that, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I think the real battle with this is yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's where, like, people go wrong. And I don't know a lot about comedy. I haven't been doing it long, but what I think the real battle is the internal battle. Is having the confidence to go, hey, can you get me on this show? I deserve to be there. And I think that does come with time. That doesn't come with like that I know where I'm wanted for the most part, so I don't like submit to things I know where I wouldn't be wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gotten better since being out here, and I've been able to make some of those places I didn't think I might be wanted. I'm like, all right, maybe I can get that into those shows. You know what I mean? So it's like, because it's a weird scene, man. Like, it's just different strokes for different folks. There's there's alternative comics here. There's joke writer comics that just write jokes and just rip them off. I mean, they have everything like that here. So
if there was a category to put yourself in, what do you think you are?
I don't know, man. I'm evolving. I guess when I started, like very first started, I was, looking back at the tapes now, I'm like, wow, that was really bad. It was really bad. And so I leaned heavily on my music stuff. And so I have a music background, and I wrote some jingles. And so I leaned into that. So like the early days, I was performing with a guitar, and it was just, ugh. And so now I'm focused on writing, but I've read some books, I've got some mentorship from some pros, things like that. So I would definitely say that's advice. You need to seek, if you really want to do this, you need to find a mentor that's a pro, not somebody that's an open micer, not somebody that just does bar shows, like somebody that they live or die by comedy.
How do I find that?
Time. And, I've met some people, but it's taken me about a little over a year, because you're gonna find someone eventually that's been doing this a while. That's like, all right, come here, motherfucker.
This fucks with you.
Yeah, I got you. You know what I mean? And those people might come and go. I've had those people come and go, and so, but I think you'll find them, and I think those are the people that you take the advice from. It's like if you're it's not that I don't take everybody's unsolicited advice, but I think if you have a mentor, it helps.
I think in terms of taking advice and stuff, obviously I'm not tapped into someone who could be a mentor. So through this, I've been like analyzing everyone I've spoken to. I've analyzed their style and their philosophies on this, and like what seems to work for them that I think could work for me, and picking it apart, and that's just kind of how I've been approaching it.
Well, it's funny because everybody does it different. Like, so this, everybody gets into this differently. Everybody promotes themselves differently, and I think you got to take little bits and pieces, but you still got to do what's true to yourself.
Yeah.
Like I was better on the promoting myself piece than I was a comedian. And I still probably think I'm a little bit better at the promoting myself than I am a comedian, because that was my background prior to getting into comedy. I worked in recruiting. I worked in social media. I'm used to putting my name out there and getting people to come towards me. Like, that's normal to me. That was my entire career before this.
That was your game?
That was my game. That's how I made it as a recruiter, was promoting myself on the internet and getting people to come to me. So
I think that's something I'm going to have to learn more about. But
have to.
You've brought your wife up a few times, and I've seen her at the shows. The level of support is really impressive.
Oh yeah, my wife's down, dude.
How did you meet her? What's the beautiful...
Met on the internet and Match.com 15 years ago.
Oh, this is when it was weird to meet on the internet.
It was like age, sex, location weird, dude.
Wow.
That was like our first message back and forth. Our first message back and forth was on Yahoo Instant Messenger.
Wow.
Like when I went, ow, or whatever, when it was on a computer. So I guess I online dated when you online dated on a computer, not on your phone.
Right, yo. There was before swiping.
There wasn't no mobile app, bro. Like there was just the web page.
So you guys met on I almost said Christian Mingle. Pretty sure it wasn't that.
No,
it was
Match.com.
Match.com. So you're part of the statistic. They're the thing that and so did you spit internet game, or how did the...
No, I was teaching at a university. I was working in the ROTC department, and I was bored at work during the summertime, and that's what I would do, is troll the internet for chicks and on government time. And we met back and forth, and we just linked up, and then we've been together ever since. Like,
it just clicked
right away. And so when I decided, I was in the military, she pretty much supported me 110%. But she's got her own life. Like
Yeah.
that's another thing. That's why we've been able to make it so long. Is she plays women's league hockey. She got her own shit. Like she's got a whole separate life besides me.
Yeah.
So and then we just come together and support each other. So like when I said I wanted to do comedy, and she's like, okay, I don't want you working a real job ever again. It didn't work for you. So I'll support this. And we packed up and moved, and she got a remote job. And then I was able to quit my job. And
that's very impressive to me. Like, first off, the having the maturity to understand you both need to be your own people in this. That's something I've learned frustratingly recent, that like this isn't two halves make a whole. It's two wholes hang out around each other. And
man, like Will Smith said a long time ago, and this shit resonated with me, is that you gotta make yourself happy. And if you can't make yourself happy, you shouldn't be in charge of making somebody else happy. And having our own lives and our own interests, But my wife's a dope ass videographer and photographer. And
yeah.
And so like we come together on that piece of it very well too. So
it seems like she's your own person. She's her own person while actively supporting you to be your own person. Like I know I've met women that get uncomfortable with that because they're like, oh, he's gonna be on stage, all the girls are gonna suck his dick or whatever, and she's not even.
You see my damn Instagram, man? I'm half naked on my Instagram. My wife takes those pictures.
And you are Poopies McGee, so that's.
Yeah, like all of those pictures, like on the internet, like the lingerie pictures and the half naked pictures. She took all of those.
Also, I'm adjusting this and checking just to make sure we're not too loud or whatever.
Gotcha.
And so that because if the battery dies, I want to be aware.
Word.
But I was gonna. Oh, what drives you in this?
I don't know. It goes in like waves. So like this week, nothing drove me, and I didn't get out of the house, and I didn't do shit. And so like I think what drives me is seeing other people, watching other people. I know that's kind of probably not healthy, but like this week I was like, I don't feel like doing a thing. I hate my life. I hate myself, and I didn't get on stage at all this week. And
really?
No, not at all. And I've got some big things coming on, and, coming up. And so, then I'm like, oh shit, I see all these other people doing things. And I'm like, man, I haven't done shit this week. So
that competitiveness.
Yeah. And so I think that's like a competitive nature a little bit, and to prove people wrong. I want to make it in this, and I know I will. There's no doubt that I won't, because my definition of making it might change into something different. You know what I mean? Like it may not be famous or be a comedian full time, but I think what drives me is that I guess I'd say the freedom, the competitive nature, and that I want to win. I was a winner when I was in the military. The whole time I was in the military, I never failed at anything.
Yeah.
I never failed at anything I did. So I think this is just one of those things that I don't think you can ever really win, because even when you get to a certain level, you probably want more and more and more.
Never stops.
Yeah, and so I guess just seeing where it evolves too is kind of what drives me. Like, will I be a comedian in 5 years, or will I be managing comedians in 5 years?
Okay.
Will I be producing shows in 5 years, or will I be headlining shows in 5 years?
So it sounds like making it is just making a living under the umbrella of the entertainment industry.
In the comedy spectrum, yeah.
Okay.
In the comedy stuff, I just think that, but that's my definition. And I'll never live or die by comedy, because I got a military pension and I got VA money from getting injured overseas. So like, I'll never know what that's like to like. My bookings are based, my food in my refrigerator is based on my bookings. I'll never know that, because I have income coming in every month.
That is so smart. I am feeling it. I'm feeling like right now I don't live off of comedy, not even close. I made $30 from accidentally hosting a show on Thursday, and I still haven't gotten the money yet. So I still have my day job or whatever, and it is very scary. It's like knowing that I can't do anything else and be truly comfortable in myself, and the money aspect of it is what fucking sucks,
I mean, I have nothing but respect, because you got to figure these people that are like mega stars now, how many years that they not make a damn thing? And how many years, and like, you know, they just got famous in the last 3 years, but how many years were they living in squalor before that? Because any professional comedian that I've worked with or opened for isn't, you know, doesn't do super well. And then some people, but then you meet some people like my boy Mike. He's making a very, very good living, not on major stages.
Yeah.
And
is it like merch and following? How is he able to?
You know what it is it's just being super likable, making a show different every stinking time, and then everybody having such a good time that they tell their friends. And I've never seen anything like it. This guy is a machine.
You're making me really want to see this guy.
I mean, he's just a machine, and like
Mike Ball.
It's funny because he makes the show super personal, and he does almost all crowd work, and he'll do an hour of straight crowd work. An hour, and everybody's in. Like my mother-in-law seen Mike Ball. My mother-in-law came to Mike Ball, and she was like, I love this guy. Like, my whole family's seen him. My wife and I, and when you're super likable like that, and you can make every moment personal, then that doesn't really become a show. It becomes a moment.
That was really beautiful, man.
It's true though. I mean, it's true. You've made it more than just a comedy show. It's like, hey, this dude's up there singing about our stupid, you know, relationship. He made up some song. Everybody's laughing at it. Now I got something that I can take home, go tell my friends about. Yeah. And I think you got to think about that when you're writing jokes on stage, because that's one of the things I've learned. Because the first time going on the road with him, I was eating it, and I was like, holy crap, I'm writing jokes for open mic comedians. I'm not writing jokes for that 35-year-old couple sitting right there. Yeah. And so that's the kind of where I still get there. Like, hey, man, I'm a comic and I think some sick shit's funny, but I want to do this. Yeah. And writing those jokes. So I've learned from working with him and seeing that is that you got to write jokes for those people that are sitting in the seat, and that's super hard to do when you're doing open mics. Yes. 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 Jesus Christ. Yes. It is, because like you might say something really funny, and those open mic comedians, and I'm that open mic comedian that I'm not listening. I that's something that I tried when I moved here. I struggle with making sure I pay attention to everybody's set as much as I can. But I'm in my own head. I'm reading my notes, so it's like, aren't we all? And so like you just have to basically take what I read in this book that I'm reading is that even if it gets a little laugh at an open mic, it's probably going to do okay in a real crowd. Yeah. But if you got to get in front of those real crowds. That's the hard part right now for me it's mic after mic after mic after mic after mic. And then I recently was tossed 5 minutes at the Laugh Factory and in front of people. Yeah, I saw that. It was awesome. Oh my God, dude. I was like, it feels like the open mic is you're lifting 150 pounds, you're bench pressing, all this. And then you go to a show in front of people, humans that are paying to laugh. And it's like, oh, let me just pick up this 10-pounder real quick. Let me just flex the muscles. And like jokes were working in such a way that I didn't understood they worked. Like there was points where people laughed where I was like, I had no intention of making this funny. And I guess it's good because Mike strengthened that ability, because then when you do shows, you're there. But then at the same time, it's like, it is really exhausting, draining to like wait for that moment. Soul draining. Yeah. It's soul draining. And that, but the thing is you got to earn those moments, and you earned it. Yeah. You know what I mean? You earned it. You were there. Somebody goes, hey, this guy doesn't suck. Let's give him more than the 3 minutes. And so that was that's a win, dude. That's a huge win. Yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, hey, that means that there's somebody at the Laugh Factory that thinks you're not shitty. That's a step. It's those little baby steps. But the thing you were talking about connecting with the audience, that's such a, I think it's an important thing. And I think what I'm trying to figure out in myself, and what I'm envious of your style is it's so bubbly and fun and like magnetic almost. Like I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Do you know what I'm saying? I know what you're saying, yeah. Do you know how to word it? How would you describe your style? I guess, I don't know. I mean, like, I would say like high energy,
Yeah.
but I'm high energy.
Yeah.
And so like you see this energy drink right here?
I see it.
I limit myself because I can only have so many a week. I'm down to a weekly number now because I have too much energy.
Yeah.
And so I would say it's high energy and a lot. Right now, I'm trying to write jokes, but there's a lot about my life that's pretty wild. I'm still like writing about, and I'm not through with that yet. And so I'd say right now it's high energy, and for the most part, some pretty wild stories that are all fucking true. I mean, like when I worked on a cruise ship for a minute, and so like that was pretty wild. I was an Elton John impersonator on a cruise ship.
How the fuck do you get a job like that?
I went on a cruise, and I'm like, I like this. This seems like a cool career. I got out of the military for a little while, and I worked on a cruise ship. I worked on a Carnival Cruise Line, and I didn't do it very long. I got thrown off the boat.
Literally.
Like, I mean, not like.
Oh, okay. They were
boat,
like,
but,
"Fuck this guy. Go swim with the sharks."
I was too much of a drunk to work for Carnival Cruise Lines.
Gotcha.
So I was too much of a drunk that they actually were like, "Hey, no, you can't work here."
Did you like break something or?
No, I just drank all the time, and so like the only time that I was drunk on stage a few times, and it was like it wasn't. I couldn't fuck this up. Like I wasn't really playing the piano. It was a track. All I had to do was sing, and I had to sing 4 Elton John songs and do a duet with the Ricky Martin impersonator. And so I sang "Coming to America," or not? Yeah, we're coming to America with a Ricky Martin impersonator.
Yeah.
That was like the whitest fucking Ricky Martin impersonator ever.
Did they put brown face on him?
No, but it was like his name was fucking Randy. Like, and so like, but like it was really bad, cheesy, and I got it on my Instagram. I've got a clip. We found the VHS tape.
Oh, this was a while ago then.
It was a VHS. You could buy the VHS of the performance.
Yep.
And so, and like people would, and it was like, it was a weird moment in my life, and I knew I wanted to be an entertainer.
Yeah.
After that, but I went back to the military. I left it.
What is it like to bomb on a cruise ship where you have to like be around these people?
Well, what performing music's different because it's not like comedy. Comedy, your measure is laughter.
Right.
They're drunk. You're coming out. You're singing Crocodile Rock. You don't really look like Elton John. These people are hammered. You're not gonna bomb.
You're there to as raw amusement. There's no art that's really
it's not at all like comedy. So it's not like they're like, oh god, that Elton John segue was shitty. And so
I get you.
Nobody gets offended.
Yeah, that's. You don't seem like you offend people.
Oh no, I do
really
all the time. Yeah, when I first got here, but that goes back to writing jokes, like dumb jokes, and being new and learning how to write jokes. I'm still learning. Like that's my biggest struggle is writing good jokes, but I had some rough ones, man, when I first got here, and some people still look when I walk into a room, they're like, "Oh, this fucking guy again."
Really?
Oh yeah, I had some rough stuff.
Were you trying to be?
No, they're true stories. And so like I'll try to, that's my struggle is how do I turn this true story into a joke, or do I need to just let it go and move on and write something new?
Right.
But like I lost my virginity in an Asian massage parlor. That happened. Like that isn't something that I'm not bragging about. I'm not making it up. I paid for pussy. Like I paid for that shit, and I talk about the experience. And some people are like, "Oh God, this guy's ragging on Asian people," and I'm not. But if you've ever been to an Asian massage parlor, you know what the fuck I'm talking about because it's not the underwear model experience you think it's gonna be.
What was it good?
No, it was disgusting. And even though it was my first time, it was awful. The lady did look like Mr. Miyagi though.
That's fucking great. Like little whiskers.
Oh, she was gross. She had to be about 75 years old.
Wow.
And it was so bad that the lady was like, "You don't need to be here." She was like, baby, you don't need to be here. Like, you can go get a girl on the street. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I can't. That's why I'm here. God. And so, in Battle Creek, Michigan is where
There are Asian people in Battle Creek?
They're Asian. So Battle Creek, Michigan's known for two things. The most amount of Asian massage parlors and the cereal capital of the world. Kellogg's World Headquarters.
What two wonderful things
you can get your dick sucked down the road from where they make Cocoa Puffs. Like that's
good for Michigan.
Pure Michigan. But that like the true story and like talking about it and making it a joke is a struggle. But coming out here, sometimes people are like, "Ooh,
misinterpreting your intent almost.
Or like I worked at an adventure camp for disabled kids. So like
shit.
my first job out of high school was camp counselor, adventure camp, disabled kids in the Wisconsin Dells. So I lived in the woods, camping, and rustic camping, like pitching tents, chopping wood,
Real tents
with these
camping, yeah.
with these disabled kids. There was no limits. Like if you were in a wheelchair, they'd just bust you out. They had shit like that. It was cool,
Yeah.
but those kids were assholes and they were mean and they picked on me. They did. These kids picked on me.
In crutches. Look at this fat fuck over here. Like,
Dude, it was a fucking funny as shit. And so like, but when I told the joke, I would tell it from a perspective of me being angry at them.
Yeah.
So looking back on it now, I'm like, oh shit. I'm just this dude that goes fucking making fun of kids with disabilities.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that when I wrote the joke. So there's been a few times that really kind of but you learn those hard lessons that it's like, wow, this is a funny story. I've told that joke and I've had people come up to me going, don't ever tell that joke again.
Wow. Yeah, I run into the same issue. I used to be an interpreter, American Sign Language interpreter, and people with disabilities are not nice. Like people don't, unless you're around it for a while, you don't understand. Like just because someone can't hear or see or is in a wheelchair or whatever, doesn't mean they're a nice person.
It doesn't mean they're fucking assholes.
Yeah, and it's like because people feel so like touchy about it, they're aware like, oh, I have carte blanche to just say whatever the fuck I want to anybody, and it's that I know what you're saying there, and so what you're saying is like, to make that joke work, you have to tweak the perspective of the joke, like instead of you being mad at them, perspective of them being mean to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like I have my little mentor is a comic, a road comic in New York City, and I explained it to him, and he's like, "Yeah, you're just shitting on disabled people, Jason. You're not telling the real story of them making fun of you, and maybe you're not there to the point to where you can tell that, like, in your." So I've kind of put that on the
back burner,
on the shelf. But yeah, they were not friendly.
Yeah.
So I've got some stuff that can get, and then I have some stuff too. Like I kind of like was accused of being a racist in one of the black rooms too.
That'll happen.
And it was pretty funny because I knew how to take care of my hair. So there's a female comedian that was very upset that I knew my curl pattern.
She was upset that you knew it?
Offended. And so I've been, doing comedy for not a long time, but I've been doing it around black people in Detroit, talking about my hair for a little while now.
Yeah.
And I said something about my curl pattern, and the lady got on stage, and she just shredded me and was like, "This guy's a racist." He just like, I'm like, "No, I just know how to take care of my hair."
Jesus Christ. Do you find you have? You seem like a guy who's affable with most comics, though. I can't imagine comics have an issue with you.
No, I don't have I don't have an issue with an audience too, because if one person doesn't like it, then that's how someone perceives you. Mm-hmm. And if that's one person in an audience of 300 people, how many people are going to perceive you that way?
Right.
So that's how I look at it. I don't get offended by it. I want to know. I sincerely want to know if it's bad. Because then it's like, all right, we can do things to tweak that and fix that. So I don't get offended by it. If somebody perceives me this way, then it's like, oh shit, that's not how I want to be perceived.
But there's not much you can do. They just
it's the growth process, man. We're both new comics, so it's like you're gonna learn how to write a joke and have a perspective in mind when you write it. Mm-hmm. But when I was writing jokes before, I was just writing jokes. I wasn't thinking about a point of view.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I wasn't thinking about those things. And now when I do write, because I've gotten some of that mentorship, I'm thinking, all right, where am I coming from when I'm writing this joke? What do I want you in that seat to know about me or feel about me?
Mm-hmm. I had the reverse issue. I wasn't writing. I knew exactly where my point of view was, but I wasn't writing jokes. I was being the guy. I'm gonna give them a message, man. They're gonna totally understand my thoughts. And I was like, yeah, but it's not funny. It's not. No one's laughing. They're just like, oh, okay, he's pretentious. Like that was how it was coming off. And like going back to the connecting with people, what I envy about your style is it's so fun.
Thank you.
And I think that working on loving myself. So I'm going to say a negative thing, then a positive thing about myself. The negative thing is I have this obsession, and I'm like overly self-serious sometimes, and I have this obsession with emotional connection. Like I want the audience to feel what I'm trying to say, and I think that that's good. I think that's good long term if it connects. Like if it connects on an emotional level, they really lock in with me. But it's like I need to make it funnier and consistently funnier. So that's where my head is at currently with all of this.
That's kind of where I'm at too. I mean, like, consistency is key. I have probably more losses than I have wins. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I have more bad shows than I have good shows.
Yeah.
But I'm having fun no matter what,
Yeah.
whether they're good or they're bad. I don't get, if I have a loss, I don't beat myself up over it. I watch the tape back, make some notes, and try to not do that again.
Yeah.
But sometimes in comedy, you can't control it. You know?
Yeah.
And when you're doing like open mics and shit like that, it's like the world's stacked against you no matter what. So.
Yeah, you're really people aren't on your side when you get up there for 3 minutes.
No, but the thing is like I think it's like sometimes like we all read into it too much. You know, when you go up there and eat dick at an open mic, you're like, oh god, these people think I'm suck. It's like nobody thinks you suck. It's an open mic.
Yeah, no one cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares unless you're up there just shitting on people, offending people.
Right, purposely being a dickhead.
And there's those people out there, but there's not a lot of them. At least not here anyway.
It's funny. Have you ever like been at a mic and then you see someone who's there for like the first, second time and they're like freaking the fuck out, and you say to them, "Trust me, man, like nobody cares." And it's funny how like it just takes time and experience. Like you can say to that person over and over, it really doesn't matter. It's okay. No one cares. Nobody remembers. Until they do it for like a year consistently, they're not going to click like what that means.
I mean, I'm still there, man. Like I'll write. And then go, I'm going to work on all this new material. And then I'll walk into a mic and then it'll be like, oh fuck, all these killers are here. All right, I'm just going to do the old shit right now and then negate the purpose of going to the open mic. So I think it happens that, no matter where you're at. I mean,
it's part of the game.
It's just part of the game, and I think that it's hard, and that's the thing I'm getting used to is like I have to do this new joke. Mm-hmm. I can't work on the same shit all the time. I have to do this new joke, and I have to move on, and then work on this stuff. Now we've proven that it's out of the open mic pool, and so now I can put this stuff in front of regular audiences and get even better.
Right.
But it won't get better until you get in front of a regular audience.
And that's you play music. Mm-hmm. What instrument? Guitar?
Guitar, yeah.
I had a feeling. I picture you on the bonfire,
Yeah, I'm not a good guitar player. I'm Wonderwall, dude.
But I think what's the luxury about learning music is you can be in your room alone and fucking ruin the note over and over. You can try that F chord as many times as you feel like without being embarrassed. You got to do the F chord in front of people for the first time with comedy, and that's such a frustrating but beautiful thing about it, the bravery that comes with that. I'm going to pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard because you're just like, wow, I spent all this time writing this, and then you go on the open mic and you're like, well, nothing like an open mic to make me feel like my new ideas are garbage.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it. Yeah.
But I think a lot of that is just like, if it gets one laugh at an open mic, it might be okay to try in a show or something like that.
I try to make this about an hour. The last thing I wanted to ask you about was in the future, if you end up going on the road, I would really love to tag along at some point. But I don't know the process of how you go about going on the road. Like, I know that you got, I believe we talked about this too. Like Mike Ball is the one who took you out there, and it sounds like in talking with a few people, it's like who out there. What connections do you have outside of where you are, and as well as scheduling? I don't know, man. If you have any tips or suggestions,
I would find people that put on shows, the producers, especially producers that put on shows out of state. Mm-hmm. So like I still do I do Michigan shows that make sense. I'm not going back to Michigan for nothing anymore, for 5 minutes. But like I do find that I get more time here outside of Chicago. So I'll go do. I'm going to Kalamazoo, Michigan next month, and I get like 25 minutes. And so I think it's just finding the groups, the local groups, like the Chicago comedians. Every city's got a group. Mm-hmm. Add the ones that you want to perform in, like the Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin ones. and just say, hey, can I get a guest spot? I found that 9 times out of 10, if you're out of town and you're like, hey, can I get 5 minutes? Who's going to say no to that, to see somebody new?
New, fresh.
So I guess like that would be some advice, is find these shows in Indiana, find these shows in Michigan,
Okay.
Partner up with somebody and be like, hey, can I get a guest? You know, I'll host for you. You know, I'll host for you. The mistake I made is I got into this and never hosted until like just a few months ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so it's like I wish I would have started hosting right away.
That's a different beast.
It's a different skill. It's not hard, but
Yeah.
I haven't done enough. I haven't done enough to say I'm good at it. So it's
Gotcha.
like, but I would reach out to that, and I would keep using your Laugh Factory stuff. So it's like, if you have a chance to get up at the Laugh Factory and do 5 minutes, even if it's not paid, do that, because that's only going to build your resume to do other things later on.
That makes sense.
Now you can say that you've been featured at the Laugh Factory. I can't say that.
Really? You haven't?
I've only done open mics at the Laugh Factory. I've never been featured. So the thing is now you're a featured Laugh Factory comedian.
Yeah, you got that leverage there.
Well, it's just something that you can say now to promote yourself, for somebody to go, hey, I want to give you 5 minutes.
Right.
You know, and that's literally how it works. Is now you've got a credit.
Oh, I got a credit.
You do. You've got a credit. You know, and that Comic Strip Live in New York City is isn't really a huge credit, but for me, it's kind of enabled me to people to take me somewhat serious. Like, not that I just did it once, that I've been back a couple times since then. And so that's just seeking the people out, brother.
Just building it on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has been delightful.
Yeah, it's been fun, man.
Yeah, man. All right. I will bother you in the future at a mic, and then we will
Hell yeah.
day hit the road and live freely.
Let's do it.
All right. Good night.
Yep.